What you are about to hear is a story I have never spoken aloud. It has lived inside me, heavy and hidden for years. Too dangerous to admit to family. Too painful to confess to friends. So I share it here, anonymously. If you wish to hear more untold confessions, whispered truths of love and betrayal, I ask you to subscribe, to like, and to turn on notifications. Your support keeps these stories alive. For now, call me Anna. I am 42 years old. And this is the story of how a funeral, a voice from my past, and one fragile night changed me forever. Rain hammered against the roof of the funeral home. The scent of lilies mixed with damp earth, pressing against my chest until I could barely breathe. I had returned to my small hometown in Ohio, a place I had not stepped into for nearly 20 years. The pews creaked beneath familiar faces, older now, but carrying the same hushed whispers that used to chase me down school hallways. On paper, my life looked enviable. A mansion in New York, luxury cars, children dressed in designer clothes. But it was only a shell. My husband, once tender, had grown cold with wealth. Success had sharpened him, turning affection into transactions. Rumors of other women followed him like perfume trails, and he no longer bothered to deny them. Even my children seemed to orbit his money and his name, hardly noticing me at all. I had never finished college. I had chosen marriage instead. And for 2 decades I had played the dutiful wife. Obedient, polished, silent. But inside, I was vanishing. As the minister's voice echoed, grief gathered like weather. And then I heard it. A voice I once knew as well as my own breath. I turned, and there he was, the boy who had once lived next door. The one who had carried my books through school. My first love. The childish promise we had once whispered came rushing back. The promise that someday we would marry. His eyes met mine, warm and steady. And for a heartbeat I was 16 again. I remembered summer evenings, when we would sit on the curb eating popsicles, talking about dreams too big for this small town. He had promised me he would always protect me. I had promised to wait for him. He gave a thin smile and admitted life had not been kind. He told me the woman he planned to marry disappeared while he was away in the army. And we both knew he meant me. For a moment, words jammed in my throat. I wanted to tell him everything why I left. How quickly I fell into a marriage that wasn't really love. How I buried myself in someone else's life. But before I could, my phone rang. My husband's name glared on the screen. I had begged him to come. But his voice was sharp, impatient. He said wiring money was enough. He would not be here. The line went dead. Heat rose to my face. Shame burned, exposed in front of the one man who had once held my heart. At the reception, someone pressed a paper cup of wine into my hand. I drank too quickly. He touched my wrist, gently taking the cup away. He told me this was still home, that here I could rest. His voice undid me. We talked, haltingly at first, about small things, the old neighbors, the cafe that had closed, the football games we used to sneak into. Then the words began to flow. He asked about my children, and I admitted how far they felt from me, orbiting their father's world. He shared how he never married, how he poured himself into teaching at the local high school, filling his days so he wouldn't notice the quiet of his evenings. Tears rose, uninvited. By midnight, I was unraveling. He asked softly if I needed a cab, if I was heading back to the city. I could not answer. Instead, he brushed away a tear I had not realized was falling. Then he took my hand. His small apartment above Main Street was nothing like my mansion. Books lined the shelves. A single green plant leaned toward the window. The warmth nearly undid me. He made tea, set a cup before me. And in the simplicity of it all, I felt something I had forgotten. A place where my breath could finally rest. When I leaned against his shoulder, I told him I had missed him. He drew a long breath. And then his arms wrapped around me. When his lips touched mine, I felt alive for the first time in years. That night stretched longer than the clock allowed. We spoke for hours in the dim glow of a single lamp. He told me stories from the army nights sleeping under stars in deserts. Mornings waking to the sound of helicopters. The friends he lost who never came back. I shared my own battles, years of dinners eaten in silence. Holidays where I smiled for photographs and then cried in the bathroom. The words faded, replaced by silence. His breath grew heavier, uneven, mingling with mine. The space between us shrank until even the air felt charged. When his lips brushed mine again, it was nothing like the tentative kiss before. His breath caught, then broke. As though he had been holding it for years. My own mouth parted, trembling, a soft sound escaping before I could stop it. Heat surged through me, impossible to press down. His body pressed closer, firm and unyielding, and my hands clutched at the sheets beneath me as if the world might fall away. His arms tightened around my waist, pulling me against him, and our breaths tangled in the dark. Every kiss deepened, no longer gentle but edged with hunger. A roughness that felt both clumsy and desperate. His mouth tasted of tea and salt, and my lips grew wet beneath the persistence of his. The cool air of the room clashed with the fever of our skin. Each touch a spark against the cold. He traced my face as if memorizing me, his fingers unsteady. His touch reverent yet urgent. My voice trembled, a broken whisper slipping between us. He answered not with words but with the way he held me tighter. As if letting go would shatter everything we had just found again. We lost ourselves in that heat, in the sound of quickened breaths. In the pressure of hands that clung too hard. In the ache of being starved for so long. It was not graceful, it was not perfect, but it was real. And when it was over, when the room finally grew still, he pressed his forehead against mine. Our lungs fought for air. Our breaths still ragged. Our bodies tangled in warmth. It was not a light kiss, not a fleeting comfort. It was fire. It was the kind of night that rewrites you. Morning sunlight filtered through the curtains. He kissed my swollen eyes, then went to the kitchen. The smell of chicken soup filled the small apartment. He placed a steaming bowl in front of me. It was ordinary, nothing fancy, but warmer than anything money had ever bought me. I smiled through tears, telling him it was good. His shoulders eased, as if my words alone gave him peace. And for a few stolen hours, I knew what love was supposed to feel like. When breakfast ended, silence settled. Coffee cooled between us. I tried to speak, to explain what last night meant. But before I could, he pulled me close. He whispered that I did not need to explain. That whenever I needed home again, he would be here. That would be enough for him. I nodded, my tears catching the light like glass. Later, as the car carried me toward the airport, I drew a long breath. Yesterday I had been someone else. Yesterday I had remembered what it meant to be alive. And with quiet certainty, I told myself, I would be okay.